Welcome, Rob.
Thanks, mate.
Thanks for joining me.
Thank you. Be good to be here.
Yeah, first time on the Human Being Mental podcast.
Indeed. Hopefully first of many.
Exciting stuff. You welcome your dog as well. She's sitting there looking very inquisitive as us.
Yeah, we have got Mally in case people hear a little clip-clop of nails on the floor. She may welcome and join us.
She may welcome and join us at some point. Cool. So introduce yourself to everybody, please, mate, and tell us a little bit about your background, what brought you into Dudes and Dogs, and... Go for it.
My name's Rob Osman. I'm 41, and I'm the founder of an organisation called Dudes and Dogs. And Dudes and Dogs is a men's mental health organisation that I set up in 2019 with a really simple premise, and that's just to show every man in every corner of the world that it's not just okay to talk. And there's Mally.
Hello, Mally. Oh, thank you for giving me some love. That's very nice.
And we do that by getting guys into the fresh air for a walk and talk with dogs for company, and we train guys to lead those walks. And they're trained not to be a therapist or a counsellor. They're actually trained just to hold a safe space where guys feel they can talk and open up about anything, big stuff, small stuff.
It's a bit more kind of like a kind of coaching kind of thing rather than
almost like mentoring. Well, actually, what we want to do for guys is empower them to take responsibility for their own well-being and realise that they can do it themselves, and they can talk about feelings and emotions. And the reason we did it is because I suffer with social anxiety, and it started when I was about 10 or 11. And I also spent about 30 years through that social anxiety, just trying to fit in and be what I thought society wanted me to be rather than what I was. You know, because I did play sport, and I'm a fairly big guy. Yeah. And
you
do the same. Yeah. And I didn't realise until my 30s, like, how unhappy that had made me, and the fact that I just spent that time trying to be, as I say, what I thought I had to be rather than what I was, and hiding all my what I saw as my weaknesses at the time, I realised were actually all my strengths. And so where I was going out and trying to be, the alpha and trying to be funny and the life and soul and all those things, actually what I am is really sensitive and really emotional. And I do cry a lot, but I also laugh a lot. And that emotional response was what I saw as my weakness for about 30 years, and I tried to push away. And I realised that it's kind of my superpower, and it wasn't until I started talking about that and saying it and realising it that I realised I thought it was just me that felt that way, and so many blokes just wrote to me or got in touch about what we're doing as a concept, but also the fact that they hadn't been able to be themselves. And I didn't realise the impact it had on me, as I say, until my 30s, how unhappy it made me, and how little people knew me. And so that was where I came from. I realised that I wanted to help people. So I stopped working. I worked in the corporate world till 2019. Did really well, was very successful, got to a high level, but also made myself really ill. I got Bell's palsy. Oh, God. Half my face was just collapsed, and I didn't pick up on it. It was other people noticing it. I would start every day at the kitchen table in floods of tears and just think that was normal. My anxiety was so high that I didn't have a settled stomach for 15, 20 years, and again, just thought that was normal and just carried on. And it wasn't until I stepped back and removed myself from that and realised actually my gift is my emotions and my sensitivity. It's just my chimp, as I call it, takes over a bit too much and runs with it. And actually what I need to do is embrace that emotion, but actually still be in control of it more than I was in those times. All my emotions at that time, mate, were anger, fear, frustration, jealousy even. And they are not healthy places to be. It's okay to get angry. It's also okay to have those emotions. It's how you respond to that. And that's what was so unhealthy with me back then, was how I was responding to those. I was an angry young man, and I was scared. And as a result, I was acting out in ways that weren't healthy to me or people around me.
So that came out in you in anger and anxiety and presumably depression as well at some points. Because from my own experience and from working with a lot of people with their own darker emotions, anxiety and depression hold hands and go skipping down the road together.
Big time,
they're
mate.
best friends.
Big time. It's something which I probably haven't acknowledged again till recently, how long I've struggled with depression, and I'm comfortable talking about it now. For ages, I tried to take antidepressants in my early 20s when I lost my dad, and it didn't work for me. It numbed me, like completely numbed me. And I'm, as I say, with all those emotions that I have, I need to feel.
I think a lot of people have that experience. They take an antidepressant because the doctor says it's a good idea, it'll help you control your feelings, but actually it doesn't just dull down the negative feelings, it dulls down all your positive feelings. It's like a blanket on all of your emotions. Mate, and I think a lot of people have that experience.
You're on the money, and it was physical and mental, and I say that just in case anyone else is going through it. Like I couldn't get an erection, I couldn't even think about sex and stuff like that. And I was like, do you know what, after 3 months I was like, this is not for me. And I was quite anti that as a solution. And then through lockdown I spoke to a doctor again when I was having a really tough time, and I went for a separation, which was quite uncomfortable and everything, and they put me on a metazepam, it's called, which is sort of more around anxiety, and it's allowed me to be a bit more level with how I manage things, and a bit more approachable. And it's just given me that time to actually just calm down a little bit with everything that's gone on, with all the change that's happened with everyone and stuff. And
I think meds can be useful. You know, they have their place. You know, I think meds can be really useful. Like you've just said, they gave you a bit of space to be able to deal with what you needed to be deal with. But I think it's the right meds, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
And
it's the right
that was
meds.
the big one for me. I spoke to someone who, and we touched on this before we were chatting. Like I spoke to someone who really, like a doctor who, I can't remember her name, and she probably didn't want me saying it, but she really listened to what I said about the meds before and where my fears were, and she chose that one, and it worked really well for me. And as I say, that's kind of, that for me was a big change in being able to talk openly about my depression, about my anxiety, and saying about the struggles I had in my teens, and the fact that I tried to compensate for an awful lot of that depression. And as you say, the depression and anxiety go hand in hand. I still manage it today. You know, I don't think you get over depression. You learn to manage and live with it.
That's exactly
and
right.
That can be positive. That doesn't have to be, oh God, I'm always going to be depressed. It just means being kind to yourself, that you're going to have some bad days. Today was a bad day. 2-3 years ago, I'd have woken up and found an excuse to get up everything I had in the diary. I woke up feeling the same this morning, and the thoughts went through my head. How the fuck am I allowed to swear on this one?
You swear like a trooper, my friend.
I swear like a pirate.
Please
how the fuck do I get out of everything? I still had that thought, but the difference is now I can have positive conversations. I can identify the fact. So I do a thing called notice, name, and normalise with my anxiety. I can notice that it's there. I can see what it's doing, and I can have that conversation myself now to understand that, I do feel anxious because I'm going to do this chat potentially, but loads of people tell me I'm really good at it, and actually I really enjoy it. And so when you look at it in position,
I love watching your chats with Jason.
Oh, thanks,
I find
mate.
it fascinating. Like, do you know what I mean?
I'm very lucky to have Jason in my life,
as well as making myself feel better by watching you get into an ice bath. You know, which is great. I'm like, you crack on with that, mate. That makes me feel really good watching you do that.
Oh,
you
thanks,
know what I mean?
mate. Yeah, thanks.
Because I just see a guy who's challenging himself, who's doing something that's different to the standard way of dealing with things that our society says, which is either ignore it, man up and get on with it, which I fucking hate. Man up and get on with it can go fuck itself, as far as I'm concerned. Like I'm done with that phrase, like, you know. And I think, like, I hear that so often, and it makes me angry. It genuinely does. And it's either that or medication. You know, that's the way society says that we deal with this stuff. And so it's great to see you doing something else and putting that out there. I think it's positive for guys to recognise that things like exercise, things like challenging what you're eating, things like challenging your daily routine, you know, waking your body up, getting out of the mind and into the body. These things are all so important for anxiety, and they're little things you can do to challenge yourself, you know.
You read into it, and they're basic techniques, but what you're fundamentally doing is changing that mindset, or just, again, I think it's really important. I'm honest, because I think a lot of people watch what I do with Dudes and Dogs and watch the challenge and think I've got this all nailed, and I'm far from it. And maybe they don't, but judging by some of the messages I get of support and stuff, that's what the impression is. And actually that's not the case at all. You know, it's about there are going to be days when you don't want to get in the ice bath, and there are going to be days when you don't actually. But at the moment, I've got a ton of stuff going on, and I know, despite feeling anxious, doing the ice bath, doing the exercises, and doing the morning starts has allowed me to carry on and do those things. And when you say about the phrase about man up and get on with it, you're absolutely right. Horrible phrase. What managing my anxiety and taking responsibility for my own mental health and doing things, even if I don't want to, is done, has allowed me to carry on. Not man up, but has allowed me to carry on and do things, but still be kind to myself. And at the end of the day now, I look at things I've achieved rather than starting the day with, what the fuck have I got to do today? I look at stuff I've achieved. And I can guarantee almost anyone, if you look back on your day on what you've achieved, it will be more than you've given yourself credit for.
110%. 110%, and it's about challenging yourself in little ways.
That's it.
I mean, some people might think getting in an ice bath is a massive challenge to them because they don't like the cold, and fair enough.
Yeah.
I'm sure it is bloody cold when you get in there.
Yeah.
But how do you feel when you get out?
Yeah,
that's the key thing, isn't it? It's actually a little mental challenge to try and overcome that cold. But what you're doing is you're rewiring that circuitry in your brain to actually be able to deal with difficult things.
Yeah.
And it's so tiny that the way you're doing it, but the magnitude is like that.
Yeah. And that's so. I mean, if anyone wants to know more about it, go and look at Wim Hof stuff, because he's obviously the god of it, and he will tell you far better. But one thing that I really like about it is, as you say, so one of the reasons people think ice therapy works is the way it just, your inability to think about anything else. Like fuck, I'm cold, and that is because your body is. When we talk about fight and flight and everything, fundamentally, there's only a few things your body are naturally terrified of. It might be terrified of lots of different things, but from nature, from birth, and cold is one of them because it can kill us. And so your body, when you get in ice cold, is thinking, how the fuck do I get out of here? For someone who struggles with anxiety like me and needs to be able to shift their mindset, being able to get into that horrible, I just want to get out, and calm yourself down and relax, is a real positive, because
powerful.
You can carry it across, because you are fighting. You're not just fighting your mind; you're fighting nature. You are, and you're showing your body control, and you're taking back power and responsibility. And honestly, even if you just do it once, just go and throw yourself in, and don't throw yourself in. That's really bad advice. That's really bad advice. Just in a controlled environment with someone else with you, just try it. And then get out. If nothing, I guarantee you that tingle afterwards is just incredible. There's a sensation on your skin. But if you don't feel it's allowed you to get out of your own head for even 30 seconds, I'll be amazed.
I had the same experience jumping out of a plane, if I'm honest with you.
Yeah, was that recent? You were saying about
it was.
last week.
It was. Was it 15th of May we did that thing? So 17th of May we did that.
So go on then. That must have been.
That was wild, mate.
Jesus.
That was the same thing. Like on the edge of the plane, and you're strapped. The instructor's behind you, so you're the first one facing out the door. And they say don't look down.
What do you do?
Of course. Yeah. Me being me looks down because I want to heighten that experience a bit, because I've done one before and I know what it's like. So this is my second time. Okay. I kind of know what to expect. Yeah. All right. So I'm you're on the edge of the door, but everything in your body and your brain is going, wah, 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 don't go. Yeah. And it's that push.
Yeah.
And once you've pushed through that again, say it, little barrier, that little challenge, and you've let go and you've gone out the plane, all that anxiety is gone.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you are as free as a bird, literally as free as a bird.
I can't imagine what that feels like.
You don't even feel like you're falling. Because the perspective, you're so high. People think as soon as you jump out of a plane, you see the ground rushing up. You don't, because you're so high. You just feel like you are floating. There's no sensation of falling. It's so strange.
Mate, it's something which I'll screw it. I'll say it on camera. It's something that I've got on the list to challenge. I hate heights. Fucking hate them. So part of the anxiety challenge, I'm hoping, will allow me to take on bigger challenges further down the line. And
I'll do one with you.
Climbing and sky jumping are two of the things I'll
do one with you. I'll do a skydiving with you,
that makes
mate.
it official then, doesn't it?
That's two in two this week, ladies and gentlemen. That is 2 in 2 this week. I've had mine set by Dave. I set him a challenge on Tuesday because he said to me, like, I'm amazed at these videos you do going out and interviewing people in the street. He's like, that would make me massively anxious.
So he's going to go do it.
So I said to him, well, when you come down and bring your son to university in September, mate, and he was like, I was kind of hoping you'd say that. He wants to challenge himself, which is great. This is guys challenging ourselves. This is fantastic. So he's going to come out and do some street interviews. So that's two challenges in 2 weeks.
Well, look, actually, let's do it, because this is one of the big realizations I've had. So you said about those chats, Jason.
Just want to come on the mic a little bit more.
Yeah. I'm so lucky in terms of Jason and the work that I can do with him and stuff. But one of the big realizations that I've had recently is how much of my decision making has been governed by fear rather than anything else. And you can almost guarantee any experience that you have, anything that you do, it's never as bad as what your anxiety is convinced. That's what your anxiety does. It convinces you of the worst case scenario, and almost guaranteed it's never going to be what your anxiety is convincing yourself of. And fear has governed my decision making for a long time. And again, that's being open enough to say it, because I think a lot of people don't do things because they're scared or of outcome. And actually, what's going to happen when I throw myself out of a plane? I'm going to be shit scared. I'm probably going to be sick in the morning with my nerves. but I'm going to achieve something that I've always wanted to do, and that's about flipping the mics. Fuck it, mate. Let's do it. Go on.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Let's flip.
There's a reason they say face your fears.
100%.
Do you know what I mean? There's a
100%.
reason they say face your fears.
I'm not going to do it all the time, but
you might surprise yourself and actually really enjoy it, mate. Do you know what I mean?
I think I would. I would. I know I'm not an adrenaline seeker. You know, I'm not one of those people who gets
Neither
anything
am
from
I
roller coasters,
particularly.
but I really think I would. Skydiving, yeah.
I'm not particularly an adrenaline seeker, but
No.
that is the most fun I have ever had with my clothes on. I kid you
Okay.
not. I kid you not.
Maybe we
Like,
should
the
do it naked
buzz
as well then.
lasted
See what happens.
For a week afterwards, I was
Yeah.
buzzing from it. Because something happens when you let go of yourself completely, and essentially what you've done is you've just given in to death. You've just let yourself go to the potential of dying. You know, you've done something really alien to your being and thrown your meat vessel out of a plane. You know, it's like that's what you've done. But when that feeling of freedom, like that feeling of relief when you're back on the ground, and that having achieved that and broken through something, and that buzz, that adrenaline buzz, you're just like,
Okay, I'll tell you what. Let me think of a challenge which I can set our viewers on YouTube. Something around a certain number of comments or subscribers, and if I get that,
okay,
at that point we hit the go button on the skydive.
Let's do that.
All right,
let's do that. No worries.
Terrified already.
You got it right there, man. Fantastic. So you mentioned something just now which clicked in my mind. You talked about fear.
Yeah.
And for people who don't realise that anxiety is something that comes under that heading of fear. And I'm going to show you a little trick.
Okay.
To just to unblend yourself from fear.
Yeah.
And this is just about realising that anxiety is only a part of your being. It's not the entirety
100%.
of you. You know. So I'm going to take our anxiety cat.
Anxiety kitty. Okay.
I'm going to ask you to hold that right up to your face, right up close in front of your eyes, as close as you can.
It's not going to be one of those scary things which like jumps out and does.
No, no. It's just an ordinary cat. Just turn it sideways and hold it right up in front of your eyes.
Turn it like that.
No. That side on.
I'm being stupid. Oh, like that. I'm with. Okay.
And hold it up to you, like right up in front
Touching
of
my
your face.
nose.
So it's touching you. Yeah.
Okay.
So how much of me can you see at the moment?
About your knee and a foot.
So not a great deal.
No.
So it's fair to say if we said that cat was your anxiety, that it is completely obscuring your vision when it's as closely attached to you as it is.
Yep.
So if you move that away now, just naturally let it drop away from you. Like that's it.
Yep.
So now how's your vision?
Better.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you tell what that is now? You can tell that's a cat.
See what that is and what you are. Yeah.
That is a cat. Okay. So when you're able to unblend, when you tell yourself that in your mind that when you're feeling really anxious and you're really wound up, anxiety is not all of me, it's just a part of me. And every time you repeat that, it actually makes the anxiety come further away until it comes so far away that you're able to observe it and see what it is.
Yeah.
And then when you get it to that point, you're able to see what it is. You realise anxiety is just a little pussy.
Love it, mate. Very nice. Very nice. Yeah,
it's a mantra, you know, and it's a mantra you can use to keep yourself safe.
Yeah.
I use this with people all the time. You know, just repeat that mantra.
Yeah,
I know I just made a joke out of that. You know, but that's actually quite a real thing for men to do. We make jokes out of difficult things.
Exactly right.
You know what I mean? To be able to deal with it and to be able to explain it and use it.
Yeah.
I use humour all the time in the counselling room, and I think it's powerful.
Mate, I think you have to. I'm quite self-deprecating, and what that's been a lot of the time inside my head is actually really negative self-talk that I wouldn't dare say to anyone else. But it's my natural defence mechanism as well, as you say. And a lot of guys is to look for humour or to deflect towards it. It's funny. That's a really good example. I think I won't go into it in any depth, but because we talked about on the podcast I do with Jason. But I had a real moment of breakthrough, and it's something which I just share if anyone is struggling. It was a Saturday night. Okay. My son was over at a sleepover, having an amazing time with a mate he gets on great with, and I've recently come out of a relationship with someone who meant an awful lot to me, and I found myself worrying and overthinking situations I didn't know if they were even going on. And worrying about what people would think that my son, I've sent him to a sleepover with his mate when he should be with me. Stupid things that have no sense at all. And I could feel my legs getting twitchy and like I'd been running for ages and bouncing around. I could feel you coming back up, man.
Yeah, I think she's in
there. Yeah. Just
an appropriate time.
Yeah.
She's going to come and give me some love again. Go on, Rob. You talk, I'll take care of the dog.
and just I can hear those licks, Mally.
Oh, yeah.
And just my brain running from one stupid thought to another with no process, and even now you can hear it probably talking about it. It's hard to talk about and explain. And I had a conversation with myself, mate, literally, because I've always been aware, say, of my chimp, what I call my chimp.
I love that.
Yeah, and it comes from Steve Peters. It's the Chimp Paradox. First ever book I read about sort of mental, understand your brain, understand yourself better. And I'd say to anyone who's just wanting to understand a little bit, it's a great place to start in understanding nature and why we have fight or flight. And for me, Mally, lie down. Good girl.
Getting intense love here, mate. Intense love. It's great.
And as I say, my chimp is a huge part of me and takes over too much, and I realised that's what was happening. And I had a conversation with myself, mate, and I feel very weird. It's the first time I said it, but I rationalised with my chimp because I do need him, and he does give me a lot. But sitting there on a Saturday night and worrying about stuff that I can't control and outside is unfair on both of us. And actually, when my chimp settles down and lets me take control, we smash life. The problem is, with all the fear and anxiety, he's had control for too long. And I had this really sort of open conversation where I told him how much I loved him. I didn't hate him anymore, which I did for ages. I used to call him, I named him, I won't say, but I named him after someone that I used to. And actually, I don't hate him. I love him, but he needs to show it at the right time because rather than all the time. And I had this conversation with myself, and literally, physically, I felt the anxiety drop. Like my legs went from being racing to being heavy and relaxed. And I sat there for myself, mate, and was like, "Oh my God, this has worked without planning to do it, without expecting to."
Yeah.
Having that conversation and talking to myself had really, really worked. And I was like, "Oh my God, imagine if we could apply this to sport, where I get really nervous, despite I'm a really good sportsman, but I'm a classic one overthinker and I'll play badly." I was like, imagine if we could apply this to when we play sport, and imagine if we could just do this day to day, and you could take the back seat and allow me to be in charge. And the concept was exciting to both of us. And I realise I'm now talking like this too.
No, this is brilliant. Brilliant, because I'm hearing exactly what you're saying, and actually what you've just done for yourself is something that I do with people in the therapy room.
Right.
And what you've just done is what I would call internal family systems therapy.
Okay.
Right. Which is working with a system of, can I explain this basically, simply, quickly? Okay, so the concept is you have a true self.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to go into this in detail with Sean Flynn when he comes back on in a couple of weeks. Okay, so we're going to do a whole podcast on this because it is fascinating.
That'd be really
I want people to
interesting,
understand and learn this. I think what you've just said is a brilliant highlight. So you have a true self, which you might understand as your spirit, your soul, your core, whatever you want to call that.
Where your values.
That you.
Yeah.
That place you might find if you meditate. Okay. Or maybe that place you go to when you're in the ice bath.
Yeah.
Just true self. Everything else disappears.
Yeah.
So on top of that true self, we then have a system of parts, other parts, some which are useful, some which are not.
Yeah.
So we can categorize these, and we have an internal judge.
Yeah.
We have a caretaker.
Yeah.
We have a firefighter. You know what I mean? The list goes on and on and on. So what you've just done there is you've had a conversation with one of your parts, which is a protector. Okay.
Yeah.
So parts go into two categories. They're either protectors, which were some of the ones I just listed, or they're exiled parts. Now, exiled parts are exactly that. They're parts that have been created from trauma somewhere, through pain, and they've exiled away from the true self. They're a fragment of true self, essentially. Okay, so what happens is protectors, when an exiled part is triggered by an outside event of some kind, so say an external stimulus, something happens that reminds you of the past and it triggers pain from the past, that pain tries to transmit to the true self
100%,
but the protector comes in and stops it and performs some kind of behavior, like a procrastination or an anxiety, or if it's a firefighter part, it might be reaching for a bottle. Or do you know what I mean? There's a judge or a critic, or there's some kind of protector behavior that comes in to block this pain and stop it being transmitted. So all protectors want to do is keep you safe.
Absolutely.
Which is, and a lot of the times our protectors are doing really useful things for us. Okay, so I used to have a part that stomped. I still have got a part that stomped around in my head, but he never used to do much good. He was always a pain in the ass. He was controlling all my other parts, and I used to see him as a sergeant major.
Okay,
and I ended up turning him into General Melchett from Blackadder.
Yeah.
And he, because he'd gone from this fearful kind of character to this kind of much more jolly, jovial. And I worked with him in the therapy room, and and I worked hard and kind of developed a relationship with him where I was able to do what you did with that part and have direct conversations. So it's like you're talking to a part of yourself, and you're like, I made it my chimp, and it's kind of, but that's real, 'cause that's how you experience that part of yourself,
Mate, that's really,
So I think people can really learn to understand their mechanisms and actually how much work you can do on yourself. I mean, don't get me wrong, some of this stuff goes at a deep level. Absolutely. And I always say to people, if you get into a place where you can't deal with it yourself, go find some help, go to therapy.
Absolutely.
But there's so much you can do without going into therapy. Just understanding how this operates with little systems like I just explained.
Do you know what, as well, mate? That's really well put. And for me, the sort of with my inside voices now, I always thought there were two. I knew there were other parts, but I always kind of combined it as me and my chimp. And actually, I kind of break it into three now. And there is my chimp, but I've realised I love my chimp rather than hating it. But there's this third part, which is my self-talk, and that's the dick. That's the prick that I need to have a words with and say, yeah, I see you, you little fucker, and I see what you're doing. And that self-talk is, for me, one of the biggest things you can challenge, because if you can free yourself from that and be kinder to yourself, it's so much easier to try things. Because then if you go and try something new, if you join your local football club or you go to a local, or you try and take a language, or you try and take a dance, you've tried to do it. And actually, if you don't, it doesn't matter. But if you're full of negative self-talk, that's what you're going to focus on. I fucked up again. I couldn't keep to something else again. And that's when that negative self-talk kicks in. Whereas actually, whereas actually, you can go, well, do you know what?
That one, that common one a lot of people hear is, you fucking idiot, or you dickhead, or you piece of shit, or you whatever that self-deprecating. And there's a difference between, like, you mentioned earlier, like you kind of do self-deprecate in a bit of a jokey way in your head. There's a big difference between that and actually really telling yourself off. Going, you dickhead, and having a laugh at something stupid you've done. That's fine. I have no issue with that. When you're going, you fucking idiot, you screwed that up, you should have done better, right? When you're being really mean to yourself, that's not okay.
And I think that you do it without even realising sometimes.
Oh God!
And like, I would love anyone watching this, have a think about it yourself. Like when you talked to yourself last, when you felt you fucked up, or you thought you fucked up, or something had gone wrong. How long you beat yourself up? I remember I went to the States, and and it was a terrible comment to say, but it was flippant. I was over there with my son, gone to watch a baseball match, a softball match that was going on in the local area, chatting to a few guys, having a few beers with them, really lovely. And one of the guys' girlfriend was playing. And he was clearly very proud of his girlfriend. She was a very beautiful American woman. And I made a joke about him punching above his weight. I know, but
I'm smiling because
it was so awful.
It's the kind of inappropriate shit I'd come out with.
and I did it because he was making a joke about how well he'd done, and he was so full of himself. And I did it, but the moment it came out of my mouth, I could see, like, I touched a nerve personally. And so I backed away, but I beat myself up for that for about 2 years. And it's like, actually, it was a really misjudged comment. That's all it was.
That's all it was. Give yourself a break.
Give yourself a break. Don't fucking try and find that guy on Facebook so you can publicly apologise to him. It's things like that where you've got to be kinder to yourself, and then things become a lot easier to do when you're kinder to yourself about things.
I think we all have narratives, like if you kind of think about that idea of parts, it's almost like each of those individual parts that you've got in your head has got a little tape player that's playing the same tape on a loop, and it's a narrative over and over again. And the power in getting to know these parts and develop a relationship with them and strike up conversations with them. And people say, I've had clients say to me, are you encouraging me to be schizophrenic? Talk to the voices in my head. And I go, well, take out the schizophrenic. But I am encouraging you to talk to the voices in your head because they're there and they're narratives and we all use them. And every single human being has that, and by the power in it is incredible in terms of just being able to connect with that part, develop the relationship, develop a new narrative, and re-record what's on that
absolutely.
tape. You know, that's the power in it.
It's a big one for me is with Dudes and Dogs. You know, for we've been going since 2019, and the negative talk in my head.
So we should probably talk about that a bit
Yeah,
more.
we should. We just natted, haven't we?
Yeah, we have chatted. Yeah, no,
So,
let's tell people what Dudes and Dogs is about, for God's sake.
Yeah, so let's actually get back to our here. But yeah, it's like, so with Dudes and Dogs, we when we started in 2019, we had this awesome start. Like we got, we were on primetime BBC. We were on with Lorraine Kelly in the morning. I was
awesome.
my favourite boast, mate. I was I was the light news story in Trump's second impeachment hearing on NBC in America.
No way.
Yeah, so that's
awesome.
It was amazing. We were flying. We were getting so much attention. We were filling our walks. We couldn't fill them fast enough, and then lockdown hit. And everything had to stop. We had to move online, and we've never recovered. It's like in terms of getting guys to come back out, but also I've paid for this up to now out of my own pocket, so I have no savings left. I had to sell my camper van. I now rent a place rather than having a mortgage, and we need to switch to a sustainable model, so it's got a long-term future. And getting that money hasn't happened as quickly as we'd have liked. And the negative talk we've just spoken about is like, oh, you can't fucking do it. You know, you can't get over the line. All this.
Yeah.
Actually, if I look at it properly, it's like, well, we did pretty much have it over the line. If it wasn't for a worldwide pandemic, we were starting up in 4 different countries at that point. We have 15,000 followers, and there is generally a problem with engaging with people and getting them to come out. And funding, for your first funding, you probably do have to put in between 100 and 150 grants to get one through. Yeah. And we didn't have the things in place. So again, if you can reread your narrative and actually go, yeah, I see what you're doing, you little twat. Actually, that isn't the situation. This is. Then automatically your anxiety will just reduce with it as well, and go down.
Absolutely, yeah, because you're re-recording that tape.
Yeah, absolutely,
re-recording that tape.
So yeah.
So Dudes and Dogs, as, you know, I mean, you struggled to come back, but I mean, you still got how many walks going in the UK?
We're down to 6 now in the UK and Ireland.
Okay.
At our peak, we had 17, and we were just about to start one in the US, in Australia, in New Zealand, in the Scandinavian countries. But we've got these walks around the UK. We've got 2 in Wales, 1 in Cardiff, 1 in Porthcawl. We've got the Bristol one, which I host. It's on every now and then, as opposed to as regularly as we'd like, though. We've got 1 in Stroud. Henley-on-Thames has just had to stop, and we've got 1 in Nuneaton.
Okay. Nice little spread.
Nice little spread of walks. Yeah. And if people want to know how they can support us and get, you know, they always like, how can we help? Biggest thing is like filling those walks, because, you know, that's what helps us prove the success and open more walks. We've had to put in governance, and we've had to put in all the things that you need to get funding and grants. But as a result of that, the costs to run a walk have gone up, you know. So we have to identify, we have to interview, we have to do clinical background checks, DBS checks, provide training, do risk assessments on the site. It costs close to $3,000 to start a new walk for us now. And it's like, I can't keep doing that over and over. So that's sort of where we're at with Dudes and Dogs. So when people ask, how can we help, how can we get involved, that's it. Get involved by getting on walks and encouraging other guys to get on walks. Spread the word, spread the message, you know. And if you know, and reach out to people to get involved, because we don't see ourselves as a replacement for therapy. It's we were speaking earlier, one of the biggest things we find is people can't get support straight away. Dude gets his courage up to go to the GP, finally does it, and then he's told, right, see you in 12 weeks, 14 weeks. Well, frankly, that might be too late. In fact, it probably will be. And even if it's not too late, they will go back into their cave, and because it took enough for them to do that. And by allowing people instant support to talk, I believe we will significantly reduce the pressure on the NHS and the mental health services. And it's down to us to reduce the NHS, because let's be honest, without getting political, there's fuck all that the government's going to do to sort out the mess they've made. And the NHS is in a mess, and it's one of the most beautiful, amazing things that we could possibly, and we should all be hugely proud of it. And the way we support the mental health side is by doing things like what you're doing. Like there's other organisations out there, Andy's Man Club, all the other men's clubs that are doing stuff, taking responsibility and realising by talking, by opening up, actually you deal with a lot of this stuff.
Absolutely.
And you share the burden, and that's all we do. We create a space for you to do just that.
So what's it like for somebody who, say, might want to access Dudes and Dogs, is thinking, I'd love to come on a walk, but I'm really scared. There's going to be a lot of guys there. There's going to be people there I don't know. What's there? Because you've taken quite a few people through their first experience of a dude walk. I'm going to call them dude walks.
That's good. I like it.
You know, my dude walk. And what's the experience like for somebody coming in for the first time? Because I really want people to get a flavour of that. And I think discussing things like this and putting things like this out on a podcast really opens up the doors for people to be able to go, okay, well, that sounds like it might be a bit more for me. So yeah, take us through that, please.
Mate, first thing I'd say is don't be worried about being scared. It's kind of what we've been saying all along. It's something new. But again, what's the worst that's going to happen? I can safely say no one's come on a Dudes and Dogs walk and walked away feeling worse. And actually, using one of our guys as an example, there's a chap called Kieran who does our walk in Stroud. He was hugely socially anxious when he came to us, and we set him up to lead a walk with another dog dude, as we call him. Okay. So he had support. He's gone on now to be hands down, like his work that he does with Dudes and Dogs is amazing, but he also works with local. His dog's a therapy dog now. He goes into local people's homes with the dog. I want to go. Yeah, mate, it's incredible how he's developed and grown, and that's just by being brave and coming along. So what it's like, you don't need a dog first of all. If you've got one that's well behaved, bring them. But you don't need one. The guy who leads the walk will have
well socialised dogs.
Well behaved, well socialised, because we want you to focus on you.
Yeah, not the dog.
Not the dog. The dogs bring.
Even though Mally is amazing,
she's very chilled, and she brings gorgeous. A lot of relief, and that's what dogs give us as well, a chance to actually sort of chill out, and a big part of the therapy that we offer. But we need your focus to be on you. So, and there won't be loads of guys there. We limit our walks to 6 because that is a perfect number in terms of the maximum. And quite often we've had guys who don't come along and talk straight away. Okay. Because to some guys, that's literally alien themselves. We had one chap, he never considered talking about stuff like that, and he just didn't know how to. And he actually he loitered behind like the group for the and didn't really engage. And it wasn't until I dropped back and started engaging with him. And that's another story as well in terms of his anger and frustration. It's a good story, but there is no pressure to come and talk. It's not like when you go and
that's good. That's
really because good. And this is no criticism of sitting down talk therapy in any way.
Not at all.
But that is intimidating to some people.
It can be,
especially if you aren't used to talking about emotions and feelings. To sit down face to face like we are now. But if you put guys side by side rather than face to face, put them out in nature, and then give them dogs to cause the odd distraction. And let them talk about football, or let them talk about their wife, or let them talk about their kids.
Yeah, this is the thing I was going to ask next. It's not all about turning up to a dude walk and going, "Oh my God, I'm feeling terrible." You know what I mean?
Absolutely not.
Turning up and spilling your guts. And
actually, the days you show up feeling great are the days you're helping others as well, just by being there. And we have some people who just use it as a reconnect, a social scene.
The I've got is it's a community.
100%.
It's a community.
100%. I said when I started, people like, "What do you want Dudes and Dogs to be?" It's like, oh well. We want to be like Movember, but actually, I don't want Dudes and Dogs to exist. There shouldn't be a need for an organisation like us.
No.
Every bloke should be able to pick up the phone, just say, you know what?
I agree.
Every Saturday we're going to go out for a coffee.
I agree.
You know, because it's really good for us and have a chat. And that's where guys come along when they're feeling great. Is a big benefit, because we do have guys that come along just every week for a social connection and to maintain their mental health. We deal with some serious addiction problems as well, but then we signpost and we refer as well, but they're still very welcome. But by coming on week in, week out, they're doing the same thing as the bloke who goes to the gym every week to look after their physical health. They're just going down the mental health gym.
And this is what I want to get across to guys as well. Is like you work out, you work on your physical health. What are you doing to exercise this muscle? You know, like you've got to work on your mental health as well. And mind and body are one. They're not separate. There's no connection. They just are one.
Yeah.
You know, and if you've got a trauma in your mind, you've got a trauma in your body in some way. Do you know what I mean? If you've got pain here, you've got pain here. You might not feel it at a conscious level, but it's there doing something.
Yeah.
You know, it's so powerful to get across to guys that you need to talk. You need to let everything out. You need to empty the stress jug every once in a while, you know. And I think as guys, like for so many of us, and you mentioned it just now, anger is a big, big thing. And in this modern society, male anger is becoming decreasingly accepted.
Absolutely.
You know, and for a man to shout, I mean, fucking hell, we need to shout every now and again.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
There's no better feeling when you're frustrated, just
sometimes
just a quick fuck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Just get it out. Oh, sorry, Mally, I didn't mean to make you jump. But you know, just a quick get that out, and you feel so much better once you've had that physical let out. You know, but I think that anger is misunderstood.
100%.
Because it's depicted in the media as being negative. It's male anger is seen as being dangerous. The minute you shout, you're out of control, which is completely wrong. You know, it's something that I think I want to readdress. There's so many things I want to re-own, Rob. Re-own the word mental. I mean, it's up there. We want to re-own the word mental because the word mental is misused.
Exactly.
And, we want to re-own man up.
Yeah.
I think man up should be used as like
a man positive
upwards,
way. Yeah.
Like 100%. Man upwards.
Yeah.
That not man up.
Well, we do a lot with Jason around masculinity. It's like this idea that masculinity is a bad thing. It's like, no, actually, the what's bad is the idea that masculinity can only be one thing. Actually, masculinity.
What's your opinion on the phrase toxic masculinity? Can I just ask you that? Like just
no, it's a really good question.
I have mixed feelings.
Yeah,
about this
I'm not a fan.
No, I'm not a fan. But
there's toxic versions of everything. And I think there's this association masculinity is a really negative thing. And actually, masculinity is a really beautiful thing.
It is.
What masculinity can be is anything. It's as long as it's beneficial to like the community and the world around you. So I'll use an example of Andrew Tate.
Yeah.
His version of masculinity that he claims is this version is not beneficial to society or the world around him. And for me, that isn't an acceptable form of masculinity. That doesn't mean you can't be an alpha male who goes to the gym and likes big muscles and wants to protect. And that is your version of masculinity. If it benefits the world around you, that is beautiful.
Grand.
But actually, you can also have a version of masculinity where you are sensitive and emotional and you're available emotionally to the people around you. And
or you can actually be both.
Or you can be both.
You can be both.
There you go, mate. There you go. And that was the confusion I had for ages. It's like, well, how can I be sensitive and emotional and like and all those things, but actually be into my sport and play sport and stuff? And as a result, I moved away from sport because I was scared to be both, and I was scared to do it rather than accepting that that's the way I'd be.
It's probably why I play golf more than anything
else.
Do
you?
Yeah, I do.
Love it, mate.
Well,
love
badly.
It. Maybe we should do.
No,
me too. Maybe we should do a video around the course.
Let's do it
because I use it for my mental health. Again, great example. 4 hours, 3 hours out with your mates.
Yeah,
where you can't focus. So you talk about anger. I don't get angry ever on the golf course.
No,
about how badly it goes. I've
been out with mates. One guy threw his wedge and lost it in the hedge. Couldn't find it again. I was like, "Well,
that's it.
Let's just chucked 80 quid in the hedge."
Yeah, and I used to get so angry, and it's like all you do and what you said about anger is spot on. There is times when emotional responses like anger are the appropriate emotional response. It's what you do with it from that point on, and if you carry on being angry, if it's with a person, you're giving the person back that power and that control. And you're giving away power yourself. So get angry, have a shout and be frustrated because it might be an appropriate response.
Would you say actually the more you've got acquainted with your own anger, the more you're aware of it in your body?
Yeah, the physical sensations.
So do you know what I do when I get angry?
100%.
When I feel it in my body and I can't get rid of it, is I'll go up the driving range with my old driver that I don't give a shit about, and I will smash a bucket of balls.
Perfect.
Like smash them. Not like I'm trying to hit a nice, sweet, beautiful shot. I just smash them. And I come off of that range sweating and
getting that physical thing out. Yeah, 100%.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
And I think stuff like that is powerful. For some guys, it's kicking a football.
Could be anything.
For some guys, it's rugby. For some guys, it's running or cycling or swimming or whatever the hell you do.
Do you know what? Do you remember when you're younger, you used to just go and knock on your mates and you're like, coming out for a kickabout? And I wish we could still do that because that actually, and you absolutely can, I guess. But why can't you?
My first question is why not?
Yeah, why not? Because actually, it's like I've had a stressful day.
You know?
Let's go and have a kickabout, or I just want to go up the range and, like you say, smash some balls. Or there's other ways of finding that outlet, and stuff. And
it doesn't have to be going to the gym and being a muscle boy.
Yeah,
it doesn't have to.
What
be
isn't good is just burying it, and just not addressing it and not actually feeling it. And that's been I used to hide a lot from my negative emotions.
I shouldn't feel angry. That's the worst one.
And telling yourself off for feeling it and feeling emotions, and that was the big thing. I was scared of my emotions, so I didn't reflect and I didn't look at them and I didn't understand them.
No.
Whereas now I think it's still going, but I've got a better understanding now of what my emotions are and what they feel like, and that's really important because you can then assess whether it's the appropriate one at the right time or not.
It's like a snowball effect as well, isn't it? Once you start getting to know your emotions, that journey continues. It's almost like getting to know yourself is a lifelong journey.
100%,
almost,
mate.
Isn't it?
Yeah,
you know
100%.
what I mean? It's a bit like that.
And you've got to be so kind to yourself on it and be empathetic with yourself. And
that goes back to what you were saying earlier of people having this idea of you from Dudes and Dogs that you're sorted because you're doing this wonderful work,
Yeah.
And people have the same idea about counsellors and therapists.
Yeah.
Sorted,
all done, yeah.
But actually, it's more like the Jungian archetype of the wounded healer. You know, have you heard about that one?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
I love. Yeah,
you love.
I like
presumably you probably read a bit of Jung. Yeah. So that for me is where I sit. You know, I come into counselling with my own collection of traumas and life experiences and everything else behind me, and it's not like that stuff still affects me in the same way that it used to, because I've worked on it. Yeah. But it's like any time you have an injury, you have a scar. You'll always, the wound will heal, but you'll still carry a scar. Yeah. And it's the memory of those scars that actually inform me in being able to understand other people better.
And it creates your identity to some extent. And actually, identity is a big thing.
Yeah.
So, mate, could we just take 2-minute break? Is that possible?
Busting for a pee?
Yeah, that coffee's gone straight through me.
Go for it. Awesome, that's better.
Right, yeah.
That was much needed.
They're talking about anxiety. Anxiously needing anxiety. A pee. Yeah.
So I think we were talking about masculinity, and I find this topic interesting. It's something I want to explore more on this podcast as well.
Yeah.
Is why I asked you that question about toxic masculinity, because it's something that's in the press quite a lot at the moment. And I think it's dangerous. Mm-hmm. It's dangerous because you're applying the word toxic to something that exists very naturally.
Agreed.
Like, the thing that pisses me off about it is you don't ever hear the phrase toxic femininity.
No.
And
which exists.
It's this idea that it's just men that are toxic, it's just men that are bad. And I think, actually, it's genuinely... The majority of people I meet are lovely.
Absolutely.
Like you meet the occasional bad person, and that can be male, female, or whatever gender, sex, age, race, religion, whatever. There's bad people wherever. It's not just toxic men. There's 100%. Toxic people everywhere. And that's why I think that phrase is really, really dangerous.
Agreed. I think we, as a society, we naturally have to go sort of a long way when we're sort of... When we're looking at something in a different context, I think as a society, we quite often go a long way past where we should go to eventually come back to the middle.
There's like a polarised extreme, isn't there?
Exactly, you know what I mean? Right. You've got to go a long way past to find the right middle ground. And I think, masculinity is in that stage at the moment where actually being a white middle-aged man is seen as quite a negative thing. Not even just a white middle-aged man, actually, just being a man in general. There's a lot of things which are associated with it. And I think naturally we're coming back towards a more level ground where men hopefully can be a bit more...
I think so.
Themselves. And actually, that's what I was going to say a minute ago before we both had the need for a coffee break, was around identity and how important it is to have our own. Manny's trying to fight her way through again. Good girl. Come on in. And the importance of having an identity.
Yeah, massively
so.
so.
Like I'd lost mine completely. So I got a really bad injury, a back injury. I was a really good sportsman in my teens.
Okay, what did you play?
Cricket, football, rugby, everything. I was just a good all-rounder, basically. I was really lucky with my physical sort of skill sets.
I was a second row up until university level, and then I bent my knee backwards in a horrific rugby accident.
Was that around
someone
here?
Someone tackled me from behind while someone was coming in from the front and bent my knee the wrong way.
Yeah.
And after that I was like, I don't want to play rugby anymore. Do you know what I mean? I had a leg up in the air for 2 weeks.
I grew out of it pretty quick, I have to be honest.
Anymore.
No, cricket was my main one. If I was going to have a chance at anything, it would have been playing cricket. But that was, I realised, and again, this is only a recent realisation working with Jason, that was my only connection with like what I saw as masculinity was playing sport. Because actually,
like so many other guys do.
I loved drama. I really enjoyed acting. I really liked emotions and like feeling emotions and all the things that I was into other than sport didn't sit into what I thought masculinity was about. So much so I questioned my sexuality and things like that at the time because I didn't feel I fitted in with society's version of masculinity. So I identified as a sportsman, because that was my way to connect to it. And then I broke my back when I was 19, and it went through years of recovery. Had to have surgery on discs and stuff like that. And I never went back to sport, and actually I resented it for a few years because all my mates who were still playing, and actually some of them were making a career out of it and living in. And I never really... And I lost that identity. I lost my connection to masculinity, and I never replaced it. And I went from being identified as that really good sportsman, really fit, to being identified as that bloke who was a really good sportsman with a bad back, to being that bloke with a bad back. And my identity never got replaced. And I think that's
like a slow transition.
And
I
don't
notice happening.
Exactly. And I only noticed it recently. It's like, what is your identity? And it's like, other than dudes and dogs, I haven't got one. And I'm not saying that in a woe it's me way. It's kind of realising that I've allowed that to go, and that's something else I need to bring back. Is how I do identify with dudes and dogs. I do identify as an empathetic person. You know, if you say to me, "How do you want the world?" I want to improve the world around me. I know that sounds really twee, but that is. I want to make the world. You can't change the world en masse easily, but you can change the world around you. And I want to put out kindness and thoughtfulness. And love, and that's all I want to put out. I want to lose hate. I want to lose stuff like that. Accepting that it will occasionally come in, but that's what I want to be surrounded by. And like when I talk about my identity, I'm still, you probably tell, a bit uncomfortable saying it because I think, flower power hippie sort of approach. But no, that's really what I want to do. I want to make the world around me a better place, and I want people to go away from a connection with me feeling like they've had a real positive connection in some way.
Else I think gets a bad rap.
Yeah, nothing wrong with saying I get my thrills.
The values of the 60s get a bad rap.
Yeah,
nothing wrong with love and happiness.
Absolutely
and spreading
not.
Joy and
do you know what? It's so much easier to be happy and see happiness and take pleasure in the world.
Tie dye and wander around in a VW smoking pot to have those values.
That's
do you know what I mean? You don't.
You can still hold a corporate job and still hold those values.
Absolutely.
It's like little things like there was. No, actually, do you know what? I'm not going to give an example because then you sound like you're just fucking virtual showcasing. But it doesn't have to be significant things. It can be a little thing like just helping a lady with an old lady with at the supermarket who can't reach the top shelf or is searching for change for a trolley. Just doing little things that make and I don't mind saying I get a thrill from making people's day better.
Yeah,
and I'm all right with that.
Absolutely.
Thrill's probably the wrong word, but that's part of my identity, part of my way of belonging. But I've realised that sport does need to be part of my identity as well, and it's having those sort of being comfortable with whatever your identity is.
Absolutely, yeah. I think that's powerful, mate. I think that's really powerful.
I didn't think I put it particularly well, but
no, that's really that sentence was really succinct at the end. Be comfortable with your own identity.
Yeah.
Just accept who you are.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing wrong with who you are. Just because you're different to everybody else you see around you,
mate,
doesn't make you wrong. And you don't have to be the same as everybody else. And I think a lot of the problems we're seeing in society are because of a loss of identity and people struggling to find one.
Yes.
Which is why I think we're seeing all this experimentation with gender.
Yeah, 100%.
Everybody's got a tattoo, but it's a unique one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're seeing all of this kind of, I've got a piercing in a new place that nobody else has ever had one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All of this kind of struggling to be different, but actually what's happening through this struggle to be different is a loss of the true identity of who you are on the inside.
And again,
because what it's doing is homogenizing society down into this narrow bandwidth of who people are.
You've got to be,
it really is. And we need difference. Diversity is important. We need the difference between men and women. And I'm not saying don't be gender fluid or whatever,
100%.
But we need to understand the difference between femininity and masculinity.
And it's okay to group with men sometimes. It's all right for women to group together sometimes.
Yeah.
That is okay to be
it's okay
to
for
be
men
male
and women
or
to
be
friends
female.
without having sex as well.
Absolutely,
you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Let's chuck all these old ideas out the fucking window
Yeah.
because they're useless.
Mate, and actually just something to add to that I realised is I'd started going back to what we said about the negative self-voice.
Yeah.
That was who was identifying me in my head. So I saw myself as all this horrible stuff, as nasty, as unreliable, really horrible stuff, which I'm none of these things, but that's how I saw myself.
That was your tape that was playing.
And that was, I was like, and again, starting decent talks like, why do people... And my mum was like, I remember thinking, I was chatting to my mum, my mum's awesome, she's cancer as well, funny enough, and she was like, you weren't that bad. and then I spoke to a friend who she'd reached out. It was someone that I went to secondary school with. She was and she was a year below me, and she had a bit of a crush on me at the time because she was a year below me, and actually I had a crush on her. She was really pretty. Because she was a year below me, I couldn't deal with the ego of like my mates seeing me go up a year, go in the year below. So I didn't really let anyone know.
Judgment.
Judgment. Hugely.
Yeah.
And she reached out for some work stuff, funnily enough, and on Facebook, and we chatted, and I just said, look, I just want to apologise for the way I behaved, and when we were teenagers, and I said, I know it's a long time ago, but I was embarrassed by my behaviour and the fact that I wasn't strong enough, to be more confident around us. And she wrote back, and she's like, Rob, I don't have a clue what you're talking about. She's like, you were responsible. You saved me one night. You were responsible for me getting out of one of the most uncomfortable situations in my entire life, and I'll never forget that. And I had totally forgotten that. Until she mentioned it, I had totally forgotten what had happened that night.
God.
I just remembered all the negative stuff that I did in my head. None of that. And it's talking to my friends when I was a teenager, I realised, like, all this self-hate, it wasn't coming from other people. That's what it's coming from. So when you look at your identity, make sure it isn't your own self-hate that's given you that identity, because the world around me and the people that have known me longer made me realise just how different it was from what was going on up there.
Isn't that amazing as well, that tape got imprinted at that point and then carried on playing.
Carried on forever.
For how many years?
Yeah,
until
30 odd, 15, 20 years.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, and I, until she said about that night, I'd completely forgotten what happened. And like, I was like, yeah, do you know what? That was a big deal. But because I'd never gave myself credit. That was the thing. That like, I just always remember the bad stuff and never remember like the good stuff I'd done. And actually, do you know what? I am a good guy. And actually, I was as a kid as well. I was just fucking confused and all over the place, as a lot of teenagers and young men are.
I think you're meant to be.
Yeah.
I think you're meant to be. There's something really powerful for a guy having a challenge and a sense of struggle. And I think one of the things that we are really missing in our society is the opportunity for young men to turn into actual adult men.
Yeah.
There is a real rites of passage that's missing. And I use the term rites of passage loosely because it's the only phrase I can use to describe it. But when I say that, people immediately go to like shamanic rituals and running around in the jungle in a loincloth or whatever. But I don't necessarily mean that way. I mean, there's no pathway to turning from a boy into a man.
No.
And that process is something, if you look at ancient cultures or traditional cultures, whatever you want to call them, that process starts at around 1820 and continues until about 26. And actually, when you look at the neuroscience of the brain, the last part of the brain to develop is, I can't remember the name of it because I'm shit with names, but it's the part that is responsible for decision making and thought, you know, and all that. And that doesn't finish developing until 26-ish average age. So it's this kind of period of development where boys are growing up and they're being nurtured through this by elders and by experience, and you know what I mean. And this is something that's really missing in our society. We have this polarized parenting idea of just two parents raising a child, whereas in actual fact, really, if you grow that to like a family, like and I say family loosely, like friends and family, like a communal experience for a child growing up. Yes, you've got your parents, but you've got influence from all these other people as well. That has disappeared in our society slowly, and there are so many families now that are just a bubble.
Yeah, you're so right.
Because people move away, you haven't got the family around anymore. Kids don't have that influence growing up, so I think we've naturally lost our rites of passage that would have happened, you know, for so many people. And I think that's something again that I'm passionate about, and I want to bring back in through.
That's really interesting.
You know, education. Really.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I'm a big believer in mentors, particularly for young men, and it's something which we want to do at Dudes and Dogs is offer mentoring for young men.
Just something we've talked about doing with this as well.
Because it is a scary place coming in, and I couldn't tell you when I suddenly felt like a grown up. I think you grow up and you think it will suddenly happen. It doesn't. All of a sudden you're 40 and you're like, fuck. Do I feel like grown up? I guess I do. But it's still not less easy to understand and stuff. And that's the other thing about like being yourself and being honest with yourself. Is like since I started doing like being more open, my sister actually, who I'm super close to, she really struggled when I started talking more openly about who I was, because she knew that version of me, and we were super close. We'd go out all the time, and she'd see like the alpha arrogant, because that was my default to hide it. It was like outright arrogance.
Put the mask on.
So, and she was like, she couldn't get her head around how different that I actually was to what she'd seen for so long from me as a young man. That was difficult. But no one has rejected me for being myself and being my true version of me, even though that was what I was scared of. People like, you're wet, you're soft. And actually, I am soft. And now that's a positive. It's like, whereas before, if I'd have said, I'm soft, if I said a bloke's soft, I think, in fact, not just me, most people would associate that as a negative comment. I don't see that as negative anymore. I am soft in the best ways, you know. I'm soft, and it allows me to feel and empathise. And that's one of the, we were talking before about like a workshop, and I said we do a workshop with men to help them associate with emotions for the first time.
I think,
because it might be completely alien to them. Yeah, and it's allowing people that space to talk about feelings and emotions in a comfortable environment, and know that they're not going to be judged for it like I thought it was going to be judged by doing it. And if there's one skill, it's like, if you want to know how to help your mate, empathy is what I always say. It's like, it's the biggest thing, because just by, I've got a mate who's like, he's one of those typical blokes, he won't talk, but he's going through some really heavy shit at the moment. He's got a lot on his plate, and it's understandable he's stressed. And so I have to check in with him a bit more regularly and kind of force the subject a bit more and let him know I'm there and let him know, actually. And he'll be, pretty much everything he says, he's like, but then they've got it so much worse. And it's like, mate, it's not a competition on grief or on what you've got going on in your life. No. It's how you're feeling.
So many people do that, though, don't they? They minimise their own feelings by telling themselves that there are other people doing much worse. Yeah. You know,
I did it the other day.
It doesn't make your feelings any less relevant.
No.
Just because there's people doing worse in the world, I mean, you know?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's we do it naturally. I did it the other day with Jason. We were talking about grief, and I was talking about my loss of sport and how I lost my identity. And he was talking about his loss of identity because he was widowed. And I found myself sat there going, oh, fuck me. There's me talking about losing a sports career, and he lost his wife. It's irrelevant what you're discussing. Feelings and emotions that you experience are all the same. And by providing an empathetic ear, so when you say to someone you're right, you know, and they say, yeah, all good, then just go, do you know what? I know how much you've got on your plate, and I know if I was in your situation, I'd feel really overwhelmed. So are you sure you're all right? And follow it up with empathy and with love and with kindness, because say, giving someone permission to talk. And in fact, I'll tell you a story in a minute if you want about that as well. It's like, it is the most powerful way you can help anyone, and anyone can do it. You don't need training, you don't need skills. No. You just need to sit and listen to them, and then at the end just go. You don't need to tell them what to do. That's the other thing as blokes, we always want to provide a solution. My mates do it. Like I'll send it. I've got this little WhatsApp group with me and my mates who play golf together, and when I am having a tough day, I'll just say, do you know what, lads, I'm really struggling today, I'll just give you the heads up. And some of them be like, oh, let's do this, let's do that. It's like, no, I don't. And they're trying to help, but it's like, sometimes empathy is how you help, and listening, just going, for me, that's hard.
And it is. It's just, it's being able to dial into that, isn't it? I mean, I think you're probably quite a naturally empathic person anyway. Like, same as I can feel that.
You do feel it in people.
You do feel it in people,
doubt,
you know. We seek each other out, empaths. You know, we find each other.
100%.
And that is that kind of, as you mentioned earlier on, that soft side of you.
Yeah.
How many blokes do you think there are out there like that who aren't admitting it?
Oh, mate.
Even to themselves.
Yeah.
To themselves, you know. It's like, you know,
it's
I love the Andy's Man Club hashtag. It's okay to talk.
Yeah.
But like, I think like there's so much in around that. It's not just okay to talk. We need to talk. You have to talk.
Do you know what?
Must talk.
Do you know what our phrase is?
Talk. Do you know what I mean?
Do you know what Dudes and Dogs strapline is?
I can't remember now. I've read it.
It's not just okay to talk. It's vitally important.
It's vitally important.
Yeah, because it is absolutely fundamental that you just get it out there and talk and empathise and allow people their space to talk and just be heard as well. Feeling heard. That's the big win. And that was I said about the story. I was going to quick tell around.
Please.
So when I had the injury in my back, as I went through an awful lot mentally and physically. I won't bore you with it all, but it involved a lot of rehab, a lot of time laying in bed, unable to do a lot, and a bit of surgery as well. And at one point, at my worst, I couldn't walk up 150 yards. I was laying in my sister's basement, smoking as much weed as I possibly could, taking 18 tablets a day, a mixture of diazepam, morphine, cocodamol, tramadol, Voltarol. Became addicted to the tramadol, and had to wean myself off it myself. And
that's
even
hard enough road on its
and that was tough enough, and every time I went to the doctors, the solution was more medication, more tablets. And I'm like, I'm fucking 19 and I'm taking nearly as many tablets to manage my pain as I am years old, and that ain't right. So I'd used acupuncture in the past, and I thought I'd give it another go. And I went to this chap, Jason Davies is called, and the reason I'm saying his name, because fuck me, go and find him. I think he's in Cheltenham at the moment. And I went for a consultation with him, And we sat down and he listened to me for 45 minutes, tell my story about my back and about my injury and about where I was at. And he sat there and he just looked and he just went, fuck me, that must have been tough. Bang. He had my trust. And from that point on, he had my absolute trust because he just took the time to appreciate how hard it had been. Like no GP, no doctor, no surgeon had done. No. And it was the acupuncture and Jason that I credit with getting going. One line. One line.
Tiny little bit of empathy.
And anyone can do that. That's what I mean. That's so powerful. You can, if you've got a mate, if you're sitting there and you're watching this and there's someone in your head, one of your mates or one of your family or one of your friends, anything at all, and you're thinking, oh, fuck me, actually, he has got a lot. I have been a bit worried about him. Fucking go show that boy some empathy and show him some love. And I guarantee you can do it. And it might be a bit nervous for you, but just sit and listen. And when you want to say something, shut the fuck up and listen a bit more. Because it is so powerful being heard.
It's really, really powerful being heard. That sounds incredible. Like that journey that you had, that starting that off. And then from 19, from then sort of like how long did it take you to fully recover from all of that?
With all the rehab, it was, I mean, I still struggle with my back daily, but with all the rehab, it was about 4 years in total, I guess. I had surgery when I was about 22.
Yeah.
But I didn't ever, I don't think I ever healed mentally from it. Like in terms of the damage it did for a long time. And I still, it's the you talk about fear.
Yeah.
It's quite often the drive for my fear for not doing stuff.
Yeah.
Is how my back respond. And things like that. But it's an excuse sometimes in the past. If my anxiety or my depression's kicked in, I've used it as an excuse not to do things as well.
There's a lot of us who use things as excuses.
Yeah,
and
mate, I think...
You can put blocks in your own pathway, can't you? So easily.
Yeah, 100%. And the 20s and late teens, that is a difficult... It's what you're saying about rite of passage and everything.
It's a really hard time.
Yeah, and I lost my dad in 2009, so like in my mid-20s as well, and you do need other mentors beyond your dad, but to lose your dad at that point as well is quite a big deal. But it's what you say about the importance of different mentors, because my dad's only mentor was his dad, and he was in the army and traveled around the world with the army all the time and barely saw his son, so he didn't have a great example. And as a result, I love my dad to death, but he made mistakes, with his parenting, like we all do. And all we can do is say to my son is try and be a better version. It's like my son says, like, what's he want to be? I said, all I want you to be is a better version of me, mate. We just keep improving generation on generation.
I mean, I had quite a similar experience. I grew up in a butcher's cutting room. My dad was a butcher.
Where are you from originally? Is it Cornish, your accent?
No. I'm originally from, dare I say it, Dursley.
Oh, are you?
Actually, Cam. I'm not originally from Dursley. I'm from Cam.
Yeah.
So my dad was a butcher in Cam when I was growing up.
What's the butcher's called? I grew up in Thornbury. So.
Oh, you grew up in Thornbury, did you? So it was Pete Hayden Family Butchers.
Okay,
You know where Tesco's is now in Cam?
Yeah.
So we were in Chapel Street, which
just
is
by the leisure centre,
where the florist is now in Chapel Street.
Yeah.
That used to be my dad's shop.
Almost certainly used your dad's shop. Yeah.
More than likely, at some point,
my sister lived in Dursley as well. So well, my sister lived in Dursley. Her husband at the time worked at Thornbury Golf Centre, rang Thornbury Golf Course. So more than likely, mate.
My paths have probably crossed and not even known it, mate.
Yeah.
But my point about that was I then went from that and I went to university and then dropped out, and that's a whole other story in itself. But then I went into truck driving straight away, and so I grew up in like manly environment with manly men, butcher's cutting room. I used to clean up for my dad from the age of 11, so I was around these guys, and it was a very masculine environment, but little sensitive me in the middle of that, and I grew up with a bit of a broken relationship with my mum.
Right.
We didn't bond. We were separated when I was a baby. She was really ill. She couldn't care for me, so we had a screwed up relationship for most of her life, unfortunately. And she died when I was 36, and that was actually what put me into retraining as a counsellor.
Nice.
That coming out of all of that and then turning that around. But my point being about masculinity was I grew up in all of this, and it's sensitive me and didn't feel like I fitted in. And
I was going to say, did you fit? Yeah.
Who I was for a long time.
Yeah.
And it took me until I went into my first session of therapy at about 30. And started finding out who I was.
Yeah.
And then I walked out of that therapy feeling like I'd gone in as a boy and come out as a man, still with a childish attitude, but
and
there's nothing wrong in keeping that.
You still enjoy fart gags. It's fine.
Play is fun. Play is essential.
It's really interesting because again, there's like just me and you sat here, and both of us felt we didn't fit in.
That was my point.
Whereas, we can actually be, a lot more. It isn't about fitting in. It's about.
And now
being
look at what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Both of us kind of striving in the similar direction with mental health and men's mental health awareness and trying to spread love and happiness in the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
It just goes to show for anybody watching this, you can come from a pretty crappy start or have some issues that impede your journey along the way. But you can conquer whatever you want to.
And it's like you're not going to go from here to here like that.
No.
There's going to be ups and downs through it as well, and it's understanding that and being kind around
What's
that.
the lovely Joe Rogan quote? He talked about building his comedy career, and he said, I realised I was trying to build a mountain, and then I told myself I've just got to do it one layer of paint at a time. And I fucking love that because it's just it says it so beautifully. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? You're just trying to build something really big, and you know we're trying to build something big,
naturally,
and it happens naturally, but you can't force it.
I would also say as well. I think if people if there's some people like I say our age, I'm 41.
I'm 47 this year. So
40, 50, 60, like. Don't feel it's too late to start that journey, because I think one thing you realise is like actually you know yourself better than you give yourself credit for already. We had so the Talking Dudes one we did, which is this introduction workshop. We did a few during lockdown, and there was one guy on there. He was in his late 50s and he'd moved to a new city. He'd come out in his 50s as gay, and he was like, I don't know anyone, I don't do anything, I don't go out, and actually what he'd done is come on this training course himself off his own back, met a load of guys who felt in a similar way, and talked openly about his sexuality to them without any fear. It's like, fuck me, mate.
Look what you've just
done. Apparently you know yourself a bit better than you thought.
Isn't that beautiful?
And that's the power again of Dudes and Dogs, of any other man group, of any other connection you can make, of picking the phone up to your mate, of sitting down and having a chat like this. Fucking me, if you want to put microphones out and record it and put it on YouTube, because it's not going to cause having an open conversation about masculinity.
God, no.
We should be doing more of it.
Hell yeah, I try and have that every day. You know what I mean? I every day I'm chatting to somebody or other when I'm out and about, and I love going out on the street and doing the street interviews. That's been so insightful.
Oh mate, I bet that's really connection.
So insightful. And you know what I've actually realised is that there's so much wisdom in the older generations that just gets lost.
God, yeah.
Because nobody talks to old people, and there's this idea that old people, we just pack them off into a home and leave them to die. And I'm like, I've interviewed a few old people out on the street, like elderly people, retired or whatever, whatever label you want to put on. But I've learned so much from talking to them, and I've been blown away by everybody we've spoken to. Everybody who's spoken to us has been so open and honest about their mental health and how they deal with it. And some people have told us so much of their journey. I've had to cut it and not put it out in the podcast because I didn't.
I bet that was therapy for them, though.
Yeah, it was probably therapy for them, but I didn't want to put that out for them. No. You know what I mean? I'm very respectful about what I try and put out of people's stories. But I think the point of this is just like, why aren't we learning from the wisdom that we have in our society?
We used to, didn't we?
These guys have got like fucking years of experience, of lived experience. Let's share that.
And do you know what? You look at nature, and it's exactly what does happen. The chimps getting the termites out. The older chimps teach them the dolphins that come up onto the land to take stuff, or those killer whales. It's passed from generation to generation, and actually we do have a responsibility to help the younger generation to find their way in the world. This is their world for the future. It's theirs to shape. But it's absolutely for us to help them. And like there's so, like you say, there's so much wisdom in the world out there, and everything comes around in cycles. So like we're talking about Jung and Freud fundamentally. That's how long we've been talking about this stuff. So it all comes around and goes around, and people have that wisdom and that understanding, and there's nothing wrong with talking to someone who has a different opinion and stuff. It's like my mum, for instance, is really scared of a Labour government, but she grew up with one in the 70s when actually let's not get political, but her experience of it was not positive. So despite the fact she absolutely can't stand the current government, she's scared of a Labour government, and it's understanding that actually she has been through that period as well, and listening to it doesn't mean it has to change how I feel, but I should absolutely listen to it and understand, and talking to people about experience and lived experience.
The danger with all the bloody woke stuff is that nobody realises that actually what happened with fascism, and this is the way it's going. Listen to Konstantin Kisin talk about it. I hope I've got his name right. But you know who I mean. He's from trigonometry. He listened to him talk about it, and you're like, fucking hell, we do not want to go back there. We really don't. No. But you're right, listening to experiences.
The way things like fascism happens is because people don't fucking talk and discuss and be open about it and say, fuck me, no. And what was I going to say? Yeah, I'm reading a lot of. So I've been reading Noam Chomsky recently.
Noam Chomsky.
And going through his, and that's pretty terrifying. And I think everyone should that should be part of art history in schools.
God, yes.
Because the mistakes that the American the actions that were taken by various governments, Americans in particular. And again, we won't get into politics, but we need to learn from those mistakes in those areas, because what we're seeing in certain countries and in certain parts of the world with the far right and things, it's hate. Let's call it what it is. It's fucking hate.
It is hate.
It's nothing else. You can have a political view different to mine. You can have a right-wing view. I was brought up in a conservative family, supporting Margaret Thatcher.
I don't think there is a right and a left anymore.
I'm very central. I think, if I'm leaning one way, I'd probably go left, but far right or far left are equally damaging and as I say, and equally hateful.
I agree. Which is, I think, why I want to spread love in the world as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it is the only way to beat hate is spread love.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
And if that makes me a hippie, I'll hold my hand up.
No, with you all the way. And also, we judge like too quick on opinion and difference of opinion and stuff.
I think so.
Like
I think so.
And we take
media
it personal.
Polarize everything. I think you either have one end of the scale or the other end of the scale. And all of the different shades of colour in the middle of that are missed out.
It's very black and white.
You've either got to be one or you've got to be the other. Yeah, absolutely. And I find that quite worrying.
It was a big thing with Bristol, obviously, with the Colston statue, obviously.
Yes, that was huge.
And a huge part of history. And I was chatting about this with someone who wasn't from Bristol the other day about the plinth and stuff and stuff. And I think, again, it's really, I personally, and it's not for me to comment because I don't come from a race or a line of people that suffered slavery and persecution for so many years at the hands of others. But if we don't acknowledge that this shit went down and try and deny it,
we need reminders.
We're going to forget, and we're going to repeat history again.
If humanity doesn't remind itself of the times that it was a prick.
No, exactly. Now Colston should not be on a plinth in our city centre.
No,
but that is one moment in history. But actually, if people know about Bristol, white, black, everything have been protesting to have Colston taken down for years. That isn't a new thing. What you saw was the culmination of years of wanting for that to go. But it's about recognising we are so close to Bristol, Liverpool. We were part of the slave triangle, and it's really important to understand that. To reflect it, and as people that were responsible for it at that time, to make sure we remember it so it doesn't happen. Shit like that doesn't go down again. I'm not suggesting we get back to slavery, but
no, God no.
We can't forget what happened to the Jews, and we can't forget what happened with the world wars. And I'm going to take my son across to France this year and do Dunkirk and stuff in the next few years because it's really important.
It's really important for him
because it was a big. It wasn't that long ago. It really wasn't that long ago.
Not in the grand scheme of things, Well, I think you're right, and I think the danger of doing things like that is. It's like trying to rewrite history, and you can't rewrite history. We can only learn from it. And you need to leave history where it is. You can't rewrite it. You can only learn from it.
You're absolutely right.
And use it to inform the future. And we need to have a different future. And we need
100%.
to abolish slavery altogether because it's still going on.
Modern day slavery,
blah, blah, blah.
Absolutely,
I could go on forever about it, but
sports washing's a big one at the moment that's getting under my skin. Being a big sportsman, I'm finding it very difficult, and it's understanding that these extremes, they come from fear of the unknown and lack of knowledge and understanding. The reason that fascism happened in the 30s and why it was allowed to grow in the way it did was because of fear and unknown propaganda to create that fear. And actually, they lose the fear, lose the hate, create understand cultures better. I love reading about religions and faiths. I'm not really actually. I'm flirting, but it's I'm
spiritual, not religious.
I'm spiritual, but and I am. I've been practicing Buddhism for a little while, and I'm flirting with the idea. I can't call myself Buddhist yet, and I don't know if I will. Actually, I'm quite comfortable with my own version of it. But
I think there's what it means to you.
And
is
actually,
what I take from any religion, because they're all pretty much saying the same thing at their base core.
And actually, Buddhism kind of encourages that, to say, don't just fall in line. Create your own version of faith, and as long as it's benefiting the world around. So that's how I've read it anyway. But I do read about other religions and other faiths, because again, if you don't, you're kind of scared of what you're not aware of. And it's fascinating. And again, 90% of religion and faith, it creates what we've been talking about: treat people with love, compassion, and kindness. It's just the extreme 10%, which is governed by fear and hate and unknown. God, we've gone deep there. Should we go back to Do's and Dogs?
Let's go back to Do's and Dogs. So what have you got coming up with Do's and Dogs, mate? Because I haven't got a clock anywhere near me, which is brilliant. But we should probably wrap up pretty soon.
Okay. So we're in a sort of big situation of rebuilding and remapping with Dudes and Dogs. So we're desperate to start more walks, but we now have to get the funding and the correct money behind us, from whether that's council or private investment, to give it a long-term sustainable future, which means paying some salaries, but also covering the cost of insuring and DBS checks and everything else I mentioned earlier.
So you want to make something safe. You want to provide 100%. A safe service.
And I'll be honest, up to now it's been a passion project, and although we did risk assessments and things like that, we didn't have a lot of the governance and safety that we needed in place. So we've got that now, but with that comes more cost. And we now need the support to be able to start more walks. So we're in a holding pattern at the moment. We're applying for funding and grants from various places, looking at sort of small and larger funding. We need funds to start a walk. We need to get a van back on the road, because that was one of the big ways we spread our message, was by going out in the branded camper van. But it meant I didn't incur cost when I went to start new walks as well, with staying over and things like that. So that's sort of where we're at the moment, just this holding stage. We are looking for people to get in touch if they're interested in hosting a walk, but at this point, until we get money in place, we won't be starting any more walks, because of all the reasons. We need that long-term sustainability. So we are doing the 6-month anxiety challenge is going on with our YouTube channel. Jason and I do some chats every week. We haven't done one this week because he's had to go back to New Zealand for family reasons, but we're going to keep things going. But at the moment, it's a bit of a holding stage where we create that long-term stability. So if anyone does want to help out with funding, anything like that, then please get in touch, and if they can help us and point us in the right direction.
Fantastic.
Then that would be amazing. But the key thing for Dudes and Dogs is more walks, basically. We want to start more walks. And actually, the model is there, once the funding is, to get things going really quickly. So, we just need to get that little bit over the line this year. I'm taking, again, to self-care, I'm taking a bit of time for myself this year. So I've put all my savings and my personal life into it. I need to go out and actually earn a salary as well this year for myself. And you, again, can't look after anyone if you can't look after yourself.
Exactly.
And that's the priority for this year, so that when we do have the funding in place, we're in a good place, both myself and the business, to run.
You can't drink from an empty cup, can you?
There you go. And I'd fallen out of love with it, mate, if I'm completely honest, because of what happened with lockdown and it stopping. And the love's back now, and but I had to rebuild that myself. And I, again, talking about those earlier emotions, I was getting angry that people weren't coming on the walk, and I was getting frustrated people weren't using the service when we know there's a need for it. And I was getting annoyed at people not funding us for grants when they know there's a demand for it in their community. They want us to pay for it. And
a lot of the stuff is from people not wanting to attend was born from fear, though, wasn't it?
Absolutely, mate. Fear. It's not for me to get angry about.
No. But I mean, well, it is for you to get angry about, because that fear was unnecessary.
Yeah, but it's not for me to
your
get.
Anger was misplaced.
No, and actually, it goes back to what we said. I was angry and I was frustrated, but I was angry and frustrated at the wrong place. And actually, I'm okay with being angry and pissed off at local government and local councils for not subsidising Dudes and Dogs. The fact is, Bristol, as an example, has had a Dudes and Dogs walk going for 3 years, cost nothing, and now they won't put the money where their mouth is to support that work, and other councils as well. I'll tell you what, take Bristol out. I don't want to name and shame anyone, but other councils as well, have turned us down because they believe the support for I was told a few weeks ago by one specific council that the support for men's mental health in the area is good. Now, I know it isn't. It's a communal area with huge suicide rates, yet they're telling us something that's completely not true. Now, I know the money's tight and stuff, and it's difficult, but that's where my frustration should be, rather than the people not coming on the walks. And actually, then I can focus much more on what we do to get it over the line. And we've done all our stuff. That's what I will say. At Dudes and Dogs, we've got our governance, we've created our standards, we've done everything they've asked. So right now, it's for them to step up, and I'm being a bit braver about saying that. It's a bit of positive.
I think you have to be.
Yeah, positive rebellion. I'm calling it, mate.
Good.
It's like good. I'm not a rebel in life. I'm very much, but on this, I'm going to be, and I'm going to say, actually, if people want to know why more Dudes and Dogs walks haven't started around the country, it's because council, government, and the organisations involved haven't stepped up and put their money where their mouth is to support us.
There's
so there you go.
Massive lack of funding for mental health services.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing. There is small pots of money, lots of people after it. Completely understand that, but actually, what we're after is fairly low fry, and we have success. So yeah, I'm going to call them out on it. What the hell?
Yeah, I think you should. I think that needs to happen because at the end of the day, it just relies on private investment then to run. And like one of my closest friends is in Southmead at the moment. He had a horrible car accident.
Fuck.
I went up to visit him yesterday. He's in ICU, and I was walking through the hospital and I clocked a poster to my right as I was walking through, and I double took it because I was like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah.
Southmead Hospital Charity. And I looked at it a bit deeper, and they're doing like art things in the hospital and stuff to help patients and all this. And I'm thinking, why the fuck is there a charity running in a fucking hospital for services to run in a hospital that should be there paid for?
Yeah,
it's disgusting.
It should be, but as you say, it's
and no
not.
wonder people are angry when they see like our politicians taking side jobs for however many grand it was a day, whatever. You know?
Absolutely.
Like, hang on a fucking minute.
Or the close links to large charities, to those governments and stuff like that. I mean, there are. I'm not. I'll tell you what. In fact, I won't even speak about Dudes and Dogs because then it sounds like it's coming for me.
No.
There are lots of organisations, small organisations like mine, who do not need huge funds of investment to get going, and by backing them, because the reason we do it is because we've experienced it ourselves. And because we care, and we're the right people to be doing it. And actually, these millions of pounds that are given out to these large charities and organisations which have these connections, these smaller pots should be made available to organisations like myself to challenge it, because that's how we do it, and it's the support is just not there. We've got people like me who want to help their community, and there's lots of people who do amazing stuff and are just not supported. And I've through doing it's going to sound a bit... Mate, fuck it. Through doing Dudes and Dogs, I'm financially far worse off than I've ever been. And I live day to day, and I haven't got, if you're going to talk about Maslow's needs and stuff and hierarchical structure, I haven't got any of the basics. There is...
I'll go and get my textbook. Some referencing, mate.
Yeah. There's...
Actually, I'm going to recommend a book to you before you leave.
Oh, yeah, please do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me tell you.
I believe from our end at Dudes and Dogs, we've done everything. I shouldn't. Someone like myself shouldn't be in the position I'm now in.
No.
And the fact is, I would say 8-9 times out of 10, people that try and do what I do and do end up in this situation and end up not making a success of what is a very good, very successful idea. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more, mate. And it's great to see that you're passionate about that, because so am I. And it makes me angry when I see things not happening.
Yeah.
When I see like huge amounts of money being spent on war and fucking unnecessary,
or written off on
bollocks.
PPI,
or
15 billion.
Off on PPI. Any of this shit that goes on that is unnecessary. And then you've got people on the street who are homeless with massive mental health issues, no money given to them. You've got children in the fucking fostering system that have lost parents and and they need a massive amount of help. There are so many places like that in society where money is needed to help improve people's lives, and that's not happening at the same time as we're spending money on removing other people's lives across the other side of the world. How the fuck does that even work? And you talk about anger, right?
Yeah, that's the stuff to get angry about.
To get angry about,
absolutely.
And
I will say it out loud, because we're going to start a campaign soon around this. Because
good.
The world is so fucking unbalanced at the moment.
Yes.
Record fucking profits for energy companies. I am so far behind on my energy bills. That's one of my major debts.
I'm sorry, but bunch of cunts. I'm just going to say that now.
Fucking right. Yeah. Fucking right. Why, when we're having a cost of living crisis, are these companies with record profits not being covered? Why is the top 1%, who are billionaires in this country, helping out the rest of us during this time? Why, when I go to a supermarket, who have also had record profits, are they asking me to put things in the food bank tins? Why aren't they doing a fucking every tenner? Why aren't they putting a pot in? The fact is, the world we live in right now is fucked in terms of balance. It's all with the rich, and it's unfair, and we just accept it. And it should not happen. We should not go for a cost of living crisis, and people like you and me end up completely fucked while the disaster capitalists make a fucking fortune at the top end. So that's something.
Mate, I work as a lorry driver, right? I go into supermarket RDCs, I go into main warehouses, I go into all sorts of places, mainly to do with the food industry. That's just how it's happened for me. The amount of waste. Right, okay. The companies that throw away food, that like throw away bread, they throw away milk, they throw away basic staples, they're throwing away canned stuff that's all right, it's gone out of date, but it's not gone off.
Yeah.
You know, and I've challenged it. Why are you not putting this into the home? There are charities who will come and pick this up and distribute it to the homeless.
Yeah.
You know the answer?
Mate, go on.
We don't want our brand seen to be associated with the homeless.
Fuck off.
I kid you not.
Fuck. Then there it is.
You know?
In a big,
and if you're a supermarket, and say, for example, I'm not picking on any one particular brand.
No.
If you're picking, say, like all right, I won't use brands. I can do it with that.
Yeah, that's fine.
If you're picking a pack of branded baked beans, okay, in a supermarket, and they've gone out of date, you then can't give that can of beans away because it's got somebody else's brand on it.
It's ridiculous.
Just in case that upsets the brand, and then they don't let the supermarket stock it anymore, and you know.
Yeah.
So you've got all this like interplay politics and bullshit that comes into it as well.
Mate, look at farming as well. This we have a country that is on it. We could be fully sustainable. Like,
massively so.
We could be. If you wanted to, you could live off 50. We're so lucky with our resources. You could live happily with as much meat and fish and good veg as you wanted within 50-mile radius of your house, pretty much. You know.
We have a perfect climate in this country for growing.
We really do.
For growing.
We really do. And what we're doing, we're fucking all our farmers over and using big corporate companies
leeching
as well.
the land, monocrop agriculture, blah, 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 you
milk
know
farm,
all of it.
agriculture, cost of meat. You know, I'm a big meat eater, but
me too.
It's a fucking life. Put the value of that life on it, and stop all this fucking processed supermarket bullshit, and grow it locally, grow it properly, farm it, and support our communities.
Give my local farm shop a shout out up in Easter Compton.
It's a beauty. By the way,
fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
Awesome blokes.
Everything is organic, it's local, and it's not expensive.
And I bet you everyone listening or watching this will have a good butcher's nearby they don't know about.
Them.
You know, or a local farm shop that does it. You know, they do meat boxes, don't they, down at Easter Compton? I think I've done it before. Yeah, great spot.
They're amazing. I can't say enough about the quality compared to supermarket. I know I grew up as a butcher's son. I've always been fussy about meat.
Yeah, me too, but not a butcher's son.
But you go into a supermarket and you're buying something in a plastic packet and you're thinking, Jesus Christ.
Biggest lesson I had was pork. When you cook a pork chop, the amount of water that comes out of a supermarket, then you get a proper pork chop.
And chicken. Chicken's the same.
Absolutely, pumpful. So, there's lots of ways. And I guess what I'm kind of saying is that those guys, the local butchers, local shop, they're doing shit for our community.
They are.
Go and embrace it. We do need to support our high streets. We do need to support our communities. We do need to support small organisations like myself. There's a chap in fact, I'll give a shout out to a guy called Keith, and he never wants me to give him a shout out. He's been donating 25 quid every month to Dudes and Dogs for the last 12 months or so.
Oh, bless him.
He just does it out of the kindness of his heart. He doesn't ask where it goes.
What a legend.
He doesn't ask what you do with it.
Keith, you're a beautiful man.
There you go, Keith. Thank you, mate. But that's what I mean. He does that because he sees something that's helping his local community.
That is amazing.
And it's lovely. And not everyone could give 25 quid, but you could go and walk at your local dog shelter, which doesn't cost anything, or you could go and help with some local, some elderly or some aged care. There's lots and lots of things you can do. Yeah. And I promise you'll feel better.
Instead of lining the pockets of Starbucks or Costa, just one day a week, right? Yeah. If you buy a coffee every day of the week, it's just one day a week, don't have one, and give 3 quid to Dudes and Dogs.
Love it.
Or
anyone else.
Anywhere like that.
Absolutely.
Anything like that. Just do that. And if everybody did that, oh my God.
Happy days.
Happy days, wouldn't it?
I reckon that's a nice place, mate.
I reckon that's a good place to end.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for
joining me,
I've loved
it. Really
Tell
nice.
Tell everybody quickly where they can get in touch with you. Let's give out your social medias, your website.
Yeah, www.dudesanddogs.co.uk. If you want to book onto a walk or find out anything of the work we do. We do a lot of work with military groups as well. We have an app which is completely free for anyone who is current or ex-military called Man Down UK,
Fantastic.
Which provides everything from booking on a walk to full-blown crisis support.
That's
a completely free app and completely free service if you want to use it. We do also offer corporate training and workshops, which I come and do, which are lived experience talks. They're pretty good, pretty funny, I hope, but hopefully pretty sort of engaging in terms of the workplace. And we are also trialling walks for Key Stage 2, because I'm a big believer, actually, if we can get kids talking about emotions at that stage,
that's awesome.
You save up the fucked up adults later in life. I didn't know
you were doing that. That's
amazing. We've only trialed a couple of sites, but again, if there's any schools watching this that want to trial it, it's for Key Stage 2 age groups, boys and girls, and we come along for 45 minutes with a simple question: how are you? But fundamentally, our bread and butter is the walks, and I can't start enough walks at the moment because we don't have the funding. So for which ones do I need to speak to? Does it matter? That's mine. So that is for me my biggest plea is, one, if you're watching this and you can fund it and you can help with funding or you have contacts, please reach out and get in touch and help us. If you don't have funding contacts and you're just a dude who's watching this and actually what you'd like to do is get on a walk and you're a bit scared, please do, because not only are you helping yourself, not only are you helping the other guys on the walks, you'll be helping dudes and dogs get a long-term future. So there you go.
Awesome. Thank you very much for joining me today, Rob.
Mate, it's been an absolute pleasure. Yeah.
First of many, I hope.
Hope so, mate. Hope so. Well, and a skydiving and a round of golf, I guess.
Skydiving and a round of golf. Yeah. Well,
done.
We'll come out of it well.
Done.
Nice one. Take care, mate.
Awesome, mate.
Cheers.
Will do.
Bye.
Cheers.